You are listening to an independent production. All additional audio elements were provided copyright-free and belong to their respective owners. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Gateway to Eden, the podcast where we're actually talking about building a quote-unquote commune similar to the game Far Cry 5, but without the religious fanaticism and right-wing extremism. Today, because we kind of went on an impromptu break, we're just kind of giving a short and sweet update today, going over how some plans have changed, how, we've found new information for other stuff, even a couple of updated land locations that we might be interested in.
Indeedy.
Land is fun.
Yeah. I am joined by my I almost said trusty Dusty, but that doesn't work as well as handy dandy. I'm joined by all of my moderators. I'm tired. Almost all of them.
Almost.
Go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys.
Well, I'm Bombed Carnivore, resident mechanic, welder, and general machine on messer-upper.
I'm Vic, one of the heralds. I'm a truck driver and video game developer.
And then we're also joined by Armitage and Raya. Raya has been helping us a lot with the nonprofit stuff, and then Armitage a lot with the engineering so far.
Yeah, the business structure is one of my special interests, and in line with my degree program, ironically enough.
I'm just getting the slideshow Armitage has brought up for us ready. But as I said at the beginning, just pretty much a few updates going on today. Short and sweet. What were we talking about last night in the prep meeting?
I have no idea. I was taking a nap.
To be fair, I was on family time.
That's all right. We had Raya, Vickrell, myself, and Silver were on the call. It's all right. This is all very impromptu, not planned, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
It has been a hell of a month.
Yes, it has.
For all of us.
Indeed.
I think just kind of start off with where are you? There you are. I have too many screens and yet not enough screens.
Story of my life.
Yep.
There you go.
There we are. So, as I said, today we are talking about a couple of updates. One of them being, how we're organizing the whole structure of everything. Starting out, we are creating an LLC so that we can eventually go to creating a nonprofit 501c3, right? Yeah, 501c3 to kind of,
Or several.
Yeah. And as you can see here, everything's going to be under the Hope Core LLC. I'm not going to say we're workshopping the name. I like Hope Core. I like keeping that.
I think we're all in agreement on Hope Core.
Yeah.
I would agree as well.
And then when it comes to actually, building the co-op, who came up with the name Cold Open? I think it was you, Bombed Carnivore.
I'm sure just blame me for everything.
It's a good name because co-op, Cold Open. That's fun. It's fun. We're having fun.
Also, from a brand design point, that is really easy to work into what the co-op is intended to be. And when it comes to marketing and building the letterheads, building the logos, honestly, in my opinion, I think that's going to be really easy when it comes to a branding standpoint.
Yeah, there it is. Vickrell came up with a couple of...
I came up with the Cold Open idea because of your interest in film and photography and the wordplay, co-op.
Yeah. And then Vickrell's kind of did some workshopping on actually, having a sign title type imagery. That's the word, imagery.
Typography.
And it's really fun. It's really fun. You guys helped me a lot. I want to tell you guys that now. You guys helped me a lot with this, and I'm really grateful for it. You have a lot of cool ideas, which is the reason I like that you guys are helping me, because more people can have much better ideas than just a single person.
Think tanks are
Yeah, that's what I was
important.
trying for.
Yep. Oh no, ad break.
It's been in an ad break.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Talk about branding.
Yay, ad breaks. I love that so much.
Ads.
If I could run without ads, I would love to, but unfortunately, I still have to.
Well, you've either got to run with ads from from Twitch or run with ads from sponsors so we can buy the time without ads.
Yep.
Also, and you've got multi-stream because you're using OBS, correct?
Yeah, I'm using OBS, and then I'm sending that to Restream. But
Mhm.
OBS is also streaming to the TikTok streaming software. So I'm
Okay.
on 3 different platforms at once right now.
Okay.
You got to make it easy, right?
Yeah.
I just downloaded a plugin for OBS that does multi-stream.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Who
It
needs their
just plugs
sanity
straight in.
anyway?
Well,
Oh well.
stream monitor, hold on yours.
Oh wait, I know why I didn't do that plugin. Because when I was first using Restream, I was actually streaming to Facebook because my parents my parents have been breeding golden retrievers for the better part of 20 years, and I've been helping them. And last litter, we actually streamed it to Facebook for the little Facebook group of families that
Aw,
we sold the puppies to.
that's
That's
adorable.
awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I had to use Restream for that because there was literally no other supported places for it.
Gotta love it.
The way Facebook does its streaming is funky, to say the least. So.
Everything Meta does is funky.
Yep. So anyway, tangent over. Going back to the initial structure of, the LLC and the different subsidiaries. That's the word, subsidiaries.
Yes.
There is obviously the co-op itself, cold open, and then we're kind of Raya, your mic's still on.
Yeah, kids are being noisy.
Yeah. Sorry, Raya. There we go.
I'm Boomer. Don't forget that we have a co-op podcast streaming on Spotify and YouTube. Come join
Yeah,
our
so
Discord
the way
to help
this
out and
breaks
maybe be on an
down
episode.
is, you've got your parent company, which is the HopeCore LLC. You've got your co-op LLC, which is cold open. You've got your business unit 1, which, for the sake of protecting the podcast, would insulate the podcast in itself as its own business unit under the Gateway to Eden brand. And then your business unit 2 is a placeholder for your commercial units, any kind of specialized industry or commerce that you want to apply that, like I know there was a discussion brought up about a pizza chain or a brick oven pizzeria or something like that. So each one would be in its own individual business unit to insulate from liability as well as insulate the funding and revenue streams that come from each specific LLC structure, if that makes sense.
So that way, what the revenue that comes from the pizza would be tied into that and wouldn't be affecting the equipment flipping or the 501c3 for housing or whatever, or the farming section.
Yes, because the key.
So if, God forbid, any one of these takes a massive hit and goes under, the rest aren't getting dragged down with it.
Yes, and that's the key, is we don't want any one of the quote-unquote legs and arms of HopeCore LLC, if for whatever reason there's a massive liability issue, which liabilities can be everything from debts to a lack of funding or a lack of revenue, we are able to either liquidate it or use other streams through HopeCore LLC to supplement it. Now, we do not want to run into sunk cost fallacies, which are really common in multi-tier structures like this. So we are going to have an objective standpoint when it comes to analyzing how each individual business unit is doing. So that is something to keep in mind.
Expectations for each.
Yes. And what this does is this protects the main LLC, which is HopeCore LLC, as well as the other LLCs that are subsidiaries of HopeCore from any kind of damage or harm. If, for whatever reason we find out that after 5 years, one of these LLCs is still in the red despite our best efforts, we can liquidate it and move on to something else, which is adaptability and survivability.
And I understand none of us particularly would want to have to go, we screwed up, this was a bad idea, we've got to dump it.
Yeah, it's like
For the good of the whole, it's sometimes it's what's got to happen.
It's like cutting off a finger because of necrotic damage. Like if
that
the
is
finger's
exactly
just
what it
dead,
is.
If it's just dead, you cut it off. Otherwise, it's going to infect the rest of the body. I think it's a very dark way of thinking about that, but it is, what it is. That's the case.
it's a very pragmatic approach to business and the realities of business.
Yeah, which unfortunately we've
In this capitalistic hellscape that we live in.
exactly. I was
Mhm.
about to say, like,
Yeah.
this topic comes up almost every episode that we've been on. We have to work
It's
within the
almost like we
system
might
that
be
we're currently
leftists.
in. What?
It's almost like we might be leftists.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh!
We're too woke.
Yeah,
Too woke, time to make everybody else go broke.
we're stuck working within the system that we live in because, if we don't, we die. And that's how the system we live in is designed. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough of that's enough political ranting from me.
It's very much what the way this is structuring and is setting up to be is one of the premises I learned about when I was studying the Cold War, studying World War II in particular, was what's called a left behind community. It is a community that is explicitly set toward a goal that is survival, adaptability, and sustainability. And that's what it's screaming to me. So,
Yeah, we want to build a safe place for everyone.
Yep.
Somewhere where people can grow and flourish long after we're all gone.
Exactly. And if we could
We
if we
don't-
could expand to the entire country, I would absolutely love that. But also at the same time, that's probably
That's a
gonna
weird
get
way
us
to say, I
Waco.
want to be king.
I
If
don't
we
plant a
expand-
tree
If we
today.
try to expand to the whole country, we're gonna get Waco, Texas.
No, I could get there in 4 hours. It's fine.
It'd probably take me. Well, that depends on how many laws I want to break.
I got a friend who can get me there in less than 20 hours.
Y'all doing better
No.
than me. I gotta try to pack up kids. No, thank you.
I was doing I did a 10-hour road trip one way last week, so absolutely worth it.
I'm not advising anybody to do this, but I have done musket balls a few times, so I think my record is 37 hours coast to coast.
Nice.
27. I feel you. But yeah, the mentality behind this is we don't plant a tree today to enjoy its shade today. We plant a tree so that way our kids and grandkids can enjoy the shade further down their lives.
I mean, we're going to enjoy the shade when it's there, but it's there so we can have the kids and grandkids and have them grow up safe and happy. And
Exactly. So do y'all have any questions in regards to kind of the LLC structure, what it's for, what it's intended to be?
I do kind of have one, but it's kind of an obvious question that's really just more specification, I guess, or clarification, I should say. So the way it looks, you have the cold open, which is its own LLC. There's the podcast we're doing now, which is its own. And then
Mhm.
I'm assuming like commercial units would be each of the individual, like say restaurants, stores, stuff like that. Those would all be their own LLC.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The reason being is each one of those business units is going to constitute its own line of revenue. And what we want to do with that is we don't want to daisy chain everything together so that way if you take out one of the links, the whole thing falls. What you want to do is have each one of these specialized business units, like say the grocery store. The grocery store would be under its own LLC because it specializes in providing produce and goods to the general community. And then you also have I know Vickrell and Carnivore have been talking really in depth about doing equipment flipping and things like that. That would be under its own business unit because you can't mix both industries. So what we're applying in this specific regard is we're applying the division of labor to a LLC and a company sense.
Okay.
And so what that does for us is one of the key mentalities that I have grown up in terms of business and lifestyle and everything is the only way that you can gain what we would consider profit is by having multiple revenue streams, right?
diversification.
Diversification and expansion. And that is why we want each business units to have its own LLC.
And this will also help us pinpoint what's costing us money, what's bringing more money in.
So we
You
can
know,
focus
metrics.
on what is the real money makers, essentially.
Though we are going to have some that are going to be basically intended to operate at a loss, like the 501c3 for housing.
Yeah.
Well, no, the 501c3 is a non-profit organization by
Exactly.
design.
It's not intended to be profitable.
Exactly.
It's intended to provide a needed service for the community.
It's intended to
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if a 501c3 generates profit, we could face some liability from that. Correct, Rhea?
I think so.
Yes, you can. So if you're running under the 501c3, especially if you're working under grants, they're going to count every penny that
Yeah.
comes in. And if you just so happen to go over those pennies, they're going to ask, why are you going over? And it can end up being to where, hey, you guys have to lose the 501c and just become a profitable business.
Yeah, which this structure should protect the 501c3 from making excess profit and entering into a revenue review, which would result in unintended and unwanted oversight.
And I remember when we were talking about nonprofits and 501c3s and such, it's much harder to get the 501c3 back after losing it.
Yes.
So,
And that is and with the goals and the intentions of the 501c3, we do not want to lose it. We don't want it to risk damage, and we definitely do not want to risk that 501c3 becoming a liability.
exactly.
Now, with the HelpCore LLC being the parent LLC, that allows us some kind of leeway in the command structure, but revenue-wise, when it comes to the 501c3, one of my intentions with the 501c3 was to have the 501c3 be standalone, and then LLC just issue grants to keep up with funding. If we can do that, I'll have to look into the actual specifics.
Yeah, I figured with the subsidiary, it would be we would be able, if we for whatever reason ended up losing it, we could just close that one and open a different one. And well, it's not the same thing on paper, or no.
Okay, so
That really depends.
The traditional legal answer.
yeah. So, okay, so let me get this right. You're thinking the 501c3 is so not under the HelpCore umbrella, just on its own independent?
To me, it would seem more of a quote unquote loose association, kind of like a foundation, if you will. It's not necessarily a part of us, but it is the foundation that we use for outreach, like presidential foundations, right? Charitable donations, things like that, grants.
Something that we consistently contribute to.
Yes. It doesn't mean we have no relationship. What it means is we do have a relationship, but we keep it at arm's length because of the legal ring fencing with the 501c3.
Yeah.
So HelpCore or each of the subsidiaries would be consistent, regular donors to the 501c3.
And that would establish the business relationship, yes.
I like that. That's
while keeping it independent.
Yes.
Because I remember when we were talking about this before, one of the things we had to worry about was making a profit. We're not supposed to make more than, I think it was
like 53,000. It was some goofy number.
30,000.
I think it was 50 some odd.
Okay. But yeah.
But either way, it's a very low number considering what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if we're operating a bunch of businesses under that 501c3, that's going to be incredibly difficult, even though, the 501c3 is what the businesses are supposed to be contributing to.
Yeah, and then this is one of the ways to eliminate that liability. It's another way to make sure that the 501c3, regardless of whether we have to shut down a business unit or not, can still continue operating within applicable guidelines.
Yeah.
So survivability and adaptability.
There we go. There we go. That's the entire point. All right. I'm going to move on to your to-do list, Armitage.
Yes.
Main to-do list, prototype official logos and letterheads for the organization. We've already got a very nice cold open design from Vicroll. I like that design.
That was just
We were just spitballing back and forth about typefaces.
Yeah.
Fair enough, but that's how engineers do it. Might as well do it with our own art.
We'll have to come up with something for HelpCore.
True. Server poll for brand new names for organizations. So obviously we're keeping HelpCore, we're keeping Gateway to Eden, we're keeping Cold Open Co-op, but like the other various businesses that are popping up that you were talking about earlier in the slideshow, Armitage, make a server pull for a few of those. What other businesses do we have in mind right now, other than like, the pizza chain that we were talking about earlier?
I will shun y'all if you put in a Little Caesars.
It's okay. We've had a conversation about this. No Little Caesars.
No, we don't need a Little Caesars. Just like it doesn't even have to be a name brand pizza joint. Pizza is one of those things that everyone loves, regardless of who's making it.
I'm from like the pizza capital of the U.S. area, so I will shun y'all if you put in shitty pizza.
You ain't even that close to New York, bud.
Nah, New Haven, Connecticut's pizza capital.
See, now I want to go over and try because we actually had some good pizza.
Y'all are making me hungry.
I haven't had lunch yet. This is not helping, but continue, guys. Continue.
I had
I'm
pizza
over here
last night.
About pizza.
I'm over here wanting one of those stone oven pizzas now. Y'all got me all twisted off.
The pizza place I ordered from last night offers a 3,200 square inch pizza.
Yeah.
That is wild.
They must be feeding college kids because we have that. That's in my hometown. They are known for making. Yes, they're known for making huge pizza to feed a whole college group of friends.
That's more than a party size.
So I will say the ones that I'm aware of currently, business unit wise, that we have been brainstorming is the equipment flip, equipment vehicle flip. I know it's kind of evolved over the conversation. There's also the possibility of fabrication, mechanics, the ag development is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
We've also got retail
Power systems,
fresh veggies. So that would kind of, I think, fall under the grocery store element. Then you've got,
I figured like the farm and the grocery store would be separate.
Yes. Yeah. So there's quite a few ideas that are coming out of the Discord server. Blacksmithing has always been a great hobby to have. Because I'm a hobbyist blacksmith on my own, and I did see Mason mention that they want to open a blacksmith. And blacksmithing can take scrap metal and turn it into decorative pieces that sell, especially with good quality blacksmithing, and create revenue streams at a relatively low cost. The only major cost we're going to have is fuel.
Fuel and labor.
Yeah. That's where the apprentice blacksmiths come out.
All right, so I've got a little list going about the other businesses. We've got grocery store, equipment / vehicle flipping, blacksmithing, and agriculture and farms.
I do think Silver might have mentioned a bakery, either bakery or food truck.
Yes, she mentioned a bakery while we were talking about the pizzas.
Yeah, they've actually mentioned the bakery previously.
Okay.
And a food truck would also be a good idea too.
Yeah. Food trucks, I know in where I'm at, food trucks are a little bit more heavily regulated, but food trucks are always a good idea. They are on almost every single street corner out here, even the county roads.
You could even have them pull up the farms and have them sell stuff.
That's what happens around here.
There we go.
Food trucks usually tie with farms for produce.
Every business needs some good hot food.
Yes.
Yep.
I know Amazon calls in and has contractors for lunch to show up and provide hot food.
Now
sometimes it's random local food trucks.
All right, and then LLC applications and documentations on the to-do list. Those are going to have to, we'll I don't want to push them away, but we'll have to do them later.
Yeah, those are long-term do list, because those are going to be depending on the internal discussions, money, and the ability to get the LLC started. Which, I mean, the application process itself is tedious.
Yeah, fun.
I bet.
But
I've never done it, but all I hear is paperwork.
Yep.
But
I imagine that's going to be put in my wheelhouse.
With everything outside the nonprofit, I think it's going to be a lot easier than doing everything together, I guess.
Yes, and the state and local governments will automatically check our branding against other existing brands, so that way we can see if there's a conflict, and if there is a conflict, we can resolve it when that occurs.
Yeah. Oh, good. So we don't necessarily.
'Cause that's what I've been getting
There's
the
somewhat
most
of a
question
timeline
of is
on the last.
That's a default slide.
It's all
I
right.
forgot to delete it because I was on my first cup of coffee when I was making this.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
So timeline wise is going to be heavily dependent upon the level
Money!
of funding that we can get. The internal stuff is like I'm currently working on the policy code of conduct, code of ethics. Those I should be able to complete within the next month because there is a major review that I'm going to have to do once they're complete to figure out the interactions between the code of conduct, the code of ethics, and our policy, and balancing the interests of the individual with the interest of the business entities that we are creating, and how those business relationships are going to interact between each other. Because once we have a policy that we can agree on, we all vote to accept, a code of conduct that we agree on and all vote to accept, and a code of ethics that we all agree on and vote to accept, at that point, we can say we have a policy, we have a code of ethics, we have a code of conduct. All of those things are critical to the founding. Now, I can probably have those done within a month. I'm in finals week. Finals weeks.
Worry about finals. Worry about finals. Okay, this is already a project that's going to be taking a long time. So don't rush yourself. Don't overwork yourself. Worry about finals.
It is.
I
It
didn't know
is
if we
nice.
wanted to like.
Too late for that.
My suggestion was by fall have a plan in place to file.
It's yeah, and having that plan in place to file. I mean, that's the thing is having all of the because the internal strategy documents, which is another thing that I'm working on, is albeit it's a nice break from finance and numbers, but with the relationships between all of these documents, I want to make sure it is absolutely perfect before we take it to the group and say, here, we need to vote on this, we need to make a decision, and I need to make any corrections that may come across. Because I may come up with a bad policy that has an issue, further on down the line that was unintended. Now, with all of our policies, we can update them at will. It just requires a census or a quorum for us to turn around and update that policy. So once we have that, we can update as time goes along and as we enter into various situations to give us the best idea of how to handle the situation. Because the code of conduct and code of ethics is going to dictate how we act and respond in certain scenarios. And I would like to be prepared for as much as we can before we experience that.
Yeah, not
So-
being caught with our pants out is very good. Oh, look, ad break.
I know this is kind of an incredibly specific situation, but it is a situation that has constantly been brought up both on my TikToks and a couple of times here on the podcast. People who essentially target our community, where like they'll join and with bad intentions of kind of destroying us from the inside. I assume that's what the code of ethics, code of conduct is going to be preparing for too. Right?
It's shoring that up. A lot of that is going to be run in with HR policy, because HR policy is going to be the initial vet. So any person who is on site at the community and is working, living, and being a part of the community on site is going to need an HR process. I know that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but what that does for us is, we have personnel records. We know who is who. We know if there's any allergies. We know if there's any issues in a protected sense, and those records are maintained. Now,
Well, allergies, I think, might be covered under HIPAA.
yeah. No, you're right. Sorry. Like I said, second cup of coffee. The main problem that I'm running into is with vetting. I have a very distinct idea of what vetting should be. And, I think adequate investigations and social media review is going to be a key point, as much as I hate to say it, because inevitably that's going to give us a frame of mindset. And it's apparently, and as much as I disagree with this, apparently it's common practice for companies, especially multi-tier companies like this, to have a social media review process where they go through and they investigate, and it's okay, here's what we know, here's the issue, and we can make a decision based on that. With that being said, there are things we can do to prevent targeting further on down the line, but I would like to keep that a little bit more under wrap for specifics because I don't want to be able to defeat them offhand.
Yeah, no, I figured
We'll
a
go
lot
over
of
this in more detail.
A lot of this particular conversation, where we're talking about the specifics of code of conduct and HR and stuff like that, we're gonna have to talk on our own, because otherwise,
Yeah.
like, we can still make it public when when anyone comes into our community and like tries to join us. We can make that public, but I would rather not put it on the podcast, because then it's broadcasting, and because then it's being broadcasted, and the people who are going to try and circumnavigate those restrictions will probably figure out ways to do so before even showing up.
Well, and in my mind, I would firmly suggest that the code of conduct, code of ethics, internal documents, and things like that are considered proprietary, because with proprietary information and proprietary documents like that, these are custom designed for HopeCore LLC. And with them being proprietary, we have a large legal breadth with proprietary information, proprietary documentation, and proprietary systems, which inevitably protects it as intellectual property of HopeCore LLC.
And you know how well IP gets protected in the U.S.
Yeah. DCMA, yay.
Yeah.
But like with the code of ethics, and like the code of ethics, code of conduct, and internal HR policy, we can definitely discuss those as a group together, and we can go through my rough drafts and see what needs to be changed and whatnot, and that won't be a problem at all.
Yeah.
And some of these things can be covered under terms and conditions.
Yes.
Because you have to agree to terms. I don't.
Did
Nobody
you read
likes
the terms
them.
and conditions before joining the commune?
If you didn't read the terms and conditions and you violate them, now it's suddenly breach of contract.
Yeah, which inevitably is going to be to protect us.
Which you can in the contract stipulate immediate expulsion from the property.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's going to be
Which would mean we wouldn't necessarily have to go through 3, 6, 8 months of eviction proceedings.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good point, because if
Not
it's a
that we
co-op,
particularly want to evict anyone, but if somebody screws up at that level, they need to go now.
I just sorry, because if we buy the land as a co-op, then the land is not, if we buy the land as a co-op and we build a town there, the town is the co-op. So technically the land is still private property, not public.
Not to mention residence is considered a part of the total compensation package.
Yeah.
Which that residence is going to be part of that total compensation package, and a termination. I will say, dealing with the oil field, which is what I've got 10 years of experience in the oil field, the man camps are considered a part of the total compensation package, and a loss of job is a loss of residence at that man camp. I know it sounds cruel, I know it sounds rough, but that is one of those things that when you're dealing with
we're not, just to put everyone at ease, we're not going to be kicking people out because they said a bad word.
No.
And this is going to be you deliberately burnt down the community center.
Let's not set precedents in this podcast.
No.
Yeah, no precedent.
This is going to be for serious stuff, not for
Carnivore. No precedents.
Yeah.
We haven't set up a company yet. We haven't set up rules yet.
The precedents
Let
will
me
be
say
set
this.
within the agreement, in the terms and conditions.
Yes, that's the best way to put it. I would say, again, these are going to be policies and procedures that will be taken care of whomever is chosen under the board of directors.
Yep.
This information would be given to whomever is on the co-op or going to become part of the co-op. There will be parts that are considered public information, and there's going to be parts that are considered private.
Yes, and that's where the proprietary information comes in as private. And this is all going to be covered in an orientation program that is something that I would like for all of us to work on together, is an orientation program once we get a little bit closer to making sure that the LLC is filed and getting to, looking at onboarding and actually taking actionable activities toward our end goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking a little bit closer too. Not to set precedents, not to specify what's going into the terms and conditions, but I apologize for popping this in now and not talking about it before, but it's the things that I would like to see in the terms and conditions is not just protections for the community as a whole, but also protections for the individual. Like, we're not just going to pull the rug out under you.
Oh, absolutely. And
we're
is
going to make this clear. We're not just going to hand the person a piece of paper saying these are the terms and conditions, read it, sign it. I would like someone to actually, work with them, go through the paper and help them understand.
Explain what they're, so
Okay,
make
we're
sure
not-
they
I don't
understand
wanna
what
hide
they're
anything.
agreeing to.
I don't want to hide anything. This is like we keep saying, this is a place for everyone to recover, to feel safe, to build themselves up.
and
Yeah, it'll be a blunt.
transparency and guidance is going to be key, which is why the orientation program, you need to know exactly what you're signing. You need to know exactly what you're getting into, and you need to know exactly what's up. Without any question, you know exactly what is going on. Everybody's going to go through the same thing. It's going to be dress right dress all the way across the board because, again, we cannot leave anything up to chance.
If I have to do the orientation myself, I will. Just a weekly orientation with Joseph Seed. All right, guys, welcome to Eden's Gate. I'm totally not filling the room with bliss right now.
That'll make a great first statement. Enjoy your bliss.
Passes out shot glasses of marijuana-infused vodka.
Oh, boy.
Oh, there's another LLC. There's another.
Bliss LLC, the pharmaceuticals division.
It's just THC-infused vodka and nothing else.
Speaking of THC and weed, I remember we were talking about getting a clinic. I'm kind of just shooting the shit now. I remember we were talking about getting a health clinic up and running. Do you think we could get someone who can prescribe medical marijuana to anybody?
That's an idea.
I'm sure we could, but it's a question of finding someone who would be down for what we're doing and someone we can compensate fairly for their skills, because pharmacist and doctor are not cheap.
No, they are
Yeah.
not. I had a
and not to
instructor
mention
in
the
nuke school who said, "Hey, when I'm done here, I'm becoming a pharmacist. They make bank."
And the credentialing is going to be the big one too, because I mean, there's credentialing, there's ethics, and I mean, you're also associated with the medical board.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have an uncle who's a doctor and he practices general family medicine. It took him 8 years to make it through residency and medical school.
Wow.
Yeah,
and it's expensive.
hiring a doctor is not going to be cheap.
No.
No, we might not be able to afford a doctor. I don't know many non-profits that can afford to hire their own doctor.
Even
Now,
with all the for-profit enterprises we'll have going on, I'm not sure we'll be able to afford a doctor.
This is what I can say when it
Sorry.
comes to nonprofits working with like under doctors or whatnot. It can depend on what the local medical center may work out as a deal. I would say for some towns I have worked in, nonprofits have had partnerships with local medical centers. So that can be a possibility to where, hey, on our land, they may have their own medical clinic. Or it can be maybe a certain amount of times out of the week or the month, they bring in the mobile clinic to help. But then again, it also might depend, especially when it comes to THC or medical marijuana, you might have to bring in another company that's willing to work with us as under that nonprofit sector. So I would say it's possible, but there's probably going to have to be a lot of either bureaucracy tape to go through.
Yeah, and like looking into
Partnering would
THC,
probably be your best option.
yeah. And THC business requires a lot of regulation, a lot of specialization, especially when you're combining the supply chain from field to dispensary. There's a lot of regulation involved there, but with the proper guidelines, proper funding, it's fairly easy to start. The getting the prescriptions and stuff like that with associated MDs. I mean, associated MDs, pharmacists, things like that. I mean, that's going to be a big realm that I'm not familiar with because of the credentialing that's involved and the specialization of those specific regulations. So associating through the 501c3 may be the best, and just as eventually we expand to a point where we have a large presence in the local community and we're able to offer partnerships like, here we're going to set up the building, if you can come out here and see all of these people and make sure that everybody's okay, everybody's getting the scripts they need, we'll provide the building, we'll provide the staff and the organization. Just come out, do your diagnosis, do your treatments, and we'll reach out to the local community as well, and just have the medical clinic as a, okay, we're going to do this 2 times a week at one of the local cities and go from there.
Yeah, nice. All right. A little bit of a tangent, unfortunately, but you know what? That's all right.
Hey, it's just conversate.
We already
It's
did all
not
the
the first
updates,
time
so
we've
that's
taken a
all
hard
right.
left turn.
So, and then that's probably, sorry, I was just thinking about also adding a dispensary, but that would be up to Vermont laws. It kind of, the consensus is we're kind of going to Vermont, so that's all right.
And from what I hear, dispensaries generate quite a bit of revenue because of the nature of the business, especially in states where it's legalized, which, I mean, I'm looking at this from a business standpoint. The more streams of revenue, the better.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the startup cost, so it's going to be start up one, then we can start up another, then another.
Yes. So
It's not going to be spring fully formed from the ground.
no, and you're going to have to daisy chain that revenue through HopeCore LLC, because if we start one, we're going to have to get that one in the green, and then we're going to take the revenue
Profits
from
from
that
that,
one.
start something else.
Yes, and it's a continual cycle of internal investment and reinvesting what would be considered profit, which gives us tax write-offs. So we can continue investing that, which is a really good game plan, especially when it comes to dealing with business in general. Is reinvestment is regarded highly,
Yummy,
especially
yummy
if we,
tax write-offs.
especially in that.
Sure.
Yeah, we can do what Amazon does, and we'll just do better and not pay any taxes. And if we're providing community services, the federal and state governments pay us to exist.
There we go.
They do. So you might be able to get like in-kind donations. So if somebody is providing us a service, and if we're able to donate a service as well, that's a way that we can write that type of stuff off.
Yep.
And the more we can write off, the better.
Exactly. And that's gonna come down to the accountants and tax season, because again, the whole thing with us going net positive is being able to reinvest and write off as much as we can and invest as much as we possibly can in both the community, in our
Yeah, the
local
only reason we
communities.
want to write stuff off is so we have more money to reinvest.
Yes. Which is again the brutal reality of living in a capitalist hellscape.
Yay!
Yay!
Nice.
All right. So we are at about an hour. I was kind of expecting us to only go about 30 minutes instead, but you know what? That's okay. That's fine. That's plenty.
I mean, it beats the
Conversations
2 hour
are fun.
rant we went on the last time.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was 2 hours.
It's okay. It's okay. Nice little update. Thank you everybody for hopping on. There is, I think for the next episode, let's go over the different land managements again, because there's in our own little podcast chat, I see a couple of links to more
Different
places.
parcels.
What?
Different parcels of land.
Yeah, different parcels of land. Some of them look really nice. And just
Some
kinda
of them are
going
also
over-
really small.
Yeah, I saw the small ones. I kind of skipped the small ones. The little 95-acre one. I love that it has that old style house. I might steal that for myself, but that's beside the point. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody.
Oh,
for
are you
joining.
getting us property?
What?
You're getting us property if you're stealing it for yourself?
Yeah. You guys can have the rest. I'll just have the house because I like that old style. Anyway, with all of that, thank you everybody for hopping on. Thank you everybody who's watching. Thank you all of my friends for hopping on, helping with me with this podcast. I'm going to try and get this episode out. I will try and get them all out on Spotify, on YouTube. They're going to be edited up, shortened up, so that easy to follow. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Is there anything you guys want to say?
Thanks for having me, like always.
Remember, kids, life is short and confusing, so tell your friends that you love them. It's also terrifying and confusing, so scream it at them in German.
Give me 5 minutes, I'll figure out how to do it.
Ich liebe dich.
Ich liebe dich. I probably said that completely wrong.
Oh,
Anyway,
God.
all right. Bye, everybody. Hopping off now. This has been the Gateway to Eden podcast. Please join us again.